Hello, everybody, from rainy Kobe, Japan. Today is May 17th. This is Doc Kane with the podcast Marketers Who Can't Market. Who's this podcast for? People like me, because I don't know what I'm doing. And maybe people like you, if you're a marketer, a blogger, a salesperson, a small business owner, maybe you got a pizza shop and you're wondering, like, why aren't people coming to buy my pizza? It's the best damn pizza in town. Hopefully, you can pick up some ideas here on this podcast as I sort through life as a quote unquote experienced marketer. And you too. So, this is a place where we can commiserate, maybe learn a few things, hopefully, shit like that, right? So, today, offers. I've been thinking a lot about offers because generally I've been thinking that one of the troubles I've been running into on the pages I run now, as well as maybe just in the past, things I've done online. I've been online since 1994. I've worked in marketing communications departments, marketing departments, startups, small internet companies way back in 1994. And nothing really goes so smoothly, right? So you start to kind of pull it apart and try to figure out what the hell isn't working. And when you have a team, it's a lot easier. When you have someone who knows nothing about your product or service or your offer, and they're all different, you can get some feedback that you just can't see. And that's what I'm starting to realize, I think. So this week, or maybe about 2 weeks ago, I really started to think that the offers that I'm making for things on my current Nihon Hustle website, as I try and draw people to things that I want to provide to the market, I was thinking the offers might not be so strong because when I use Facebook to bring paid traffic to this site, people click on the ads, people land on the page. I think I'm quite good at headlines. And I can get people there, and I know how to design graphics that are somewhat enticing, but I think I'm losing them when they get to the page, and I'm not so sure why. So I started to think about offers. Maybe the offer's wrong. Maybe I'm giving away something for free, So when I used to work in the music business, we used to go to concerts, and as a college kid, I was a campus rep for Virgin. Way back when campus rep programs were kind of just getting reignited. They were a thing in the 70s, and they disappeared for a while, and then they came back again in the 90s. And I would go to these big, like, Lollapalooza type things, big festivals that were just starting to come into play, and try to give away free stuff. And people would, like, run away from you, almost literally. No, they're waiting for the pitch, right? That was then. And now, with the internet, everybody's aware of the pitch, right? Like, I remember another example of this, as I draw my pen, another example of this is white papers and just basic business copy that was in existence 10 years ago. I mean, you used to be able to talk about how you could create a white paper or a case study that illuminated things to look for in a product, and you get the reader to read the things, and eventually they'll come to the conclusion that your product is the one that checks off all the boxes that they're going to need. That sort of stuff doesn't work anymore, really, I think, on most people, because we're so attuned to it, and it's no longer a clever kind of hidden piece of copy strategy. It's so well known. So offers are tricky. So as I look at my offers, I'm trying to pull them apart, and I think I started to think this morning as I was walking the dog, like, I'm not so sure that the problem is my offer. Because I used to be a sales guy too, right? I mean, you kind of learn how to deal with people and objections, and all that stuff is so familiar to me, and I know how to write it as well as how to speak it when I'm in front of someone, which is infinitely more doable. So I'm not so sure that it's the offer, and I started to think maybe the product is the thing that isn't right. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that when you're kind of doing your own thing, you're so close to the product that you've created or are trying to create, and you really have no idea whether it's right or wrong. And you can read all sorts of things online about create minimum viable product, and yeah, I get it, right? But if you've got no traffic to a website and you have to pay for it, then you're going to spend a lot of money to create something that might not be that great. And there's really no true minimal viable product. I mean, you have to create something, right? And again, when you're doing this stuff all on your own, if you're listening to this and you're a solopreneur, you're trying to create a side hustle for yourself, creating all this like literally back end material that you're going to have to give to people if they do jump into your funnel, it takes time, right? So some of these things are fallacies, and you have to be careful that listen to guys like on AppSumo guys, and those guys love to talk about these sorts of like little things that you can do, like call up your friends and email your friends. And I cannot tell you how long I've been hearing that shit. It's ridiculous. Like when I wanted to get a job in the music industry, you would read that stuff back then too. Well, ask family members, ask acquaintances. Nobody knows anybody. And nobody wants to, generally speaking, go out of their way to help you. It's a sad thing, and I don't think it's just the people around me. I'm a nice guy, and I have had many acquaintances and family members who are eager to kind of cheer you on. But as the old adage goes, cheering you on doesn't necessarily equate to opening your pocketbook, right? I mean, that's not the adage. The adage is really like you have to ask people not if they would buy, but if they will buy now, right? There's a huge difference. And the same thing is true when you're trying to kind of test something out. These guys, AppSumo and of the places, their friends are people who kind of get the game, right? And so they have a little bit of money to spare for one thing, but they also are kind of in the game of supporting one another. And finding that sort of community, which is a whole different topic, is very difficult. And so they're very lucky, but their results are skewed, right? And so you have to keep that in mind. So you try out all these things and nothing works, and you wonder why nothing works when you read that everybody else is having success. Why is that? Everybody, I think, generally forgets where they started, and they're so on a forward path, they forget that they need to look back just a little bit to let people know how different things were for them just a little while ago. When you and as another additional note to that, like when you hear about people saying like, "Oh, I made this much money on my new launch" or whatever, that's true, I would imagine, but they've been at it for years, right? There's a guy that I recently became aware of. His name is Adam Enfroy, and one of the things I really like about Adam, other than him being very kind of candid and very direct in the way he teaches people, is that he's not afraid to say that he got lucky. That's a very rare quality in people, to kind of admit that, like, hey, I just put up this article about best webinar software, and then the world dipped into a pandemic, and all of a sudden everybody needed to be kind of communicating via the screen. And he got lucky, and he worked hard, as we all do, but breaks are what kind of makes it. And if you hustle long enough, yes, you get a break. I understand that, and I totally support that idea. You got to hustle. That's why my page is called Nihon Hustle, right? But he mentions that, and that's important. It kind of brings you back to earth, right? So when you are wondering why your offer is not working or why your product is wrong, you have to know that the people that you're reading about have tweaked things over and over and over again, and they finally figured it out. And that's what you and I have to do, right? So as I'm walking the dog, I'm thinking, I don't think it's the offer. I think the offer is okay. Whether it's free or there's a price attached to it. I know about premiums. I know about how to adjust. I know how to adjust for objections and things like that. But I think what I'm not doing is I'm not creating something that people want. And part of that problem is I think everything I do is easy. And maybe you deal with this. Like maybe because like my primary gig is I'm a writer, right? And so I am not a copywriting genius, but I'm very good with words. I'm very good at understanding what people want. I'm very good at storytelling, particularly as a form of copywriting. That's my strength, I would say. but I can't sell that, right? Or at least I think I can't. Right? This is the problem. And my experience in trying to kind of sell things to other writers is writers are cheap, and which is why most writers have issues with earning enough money. They're too stingy with the pocketbook. Um, but what do you sell? Like, what do you really sell? I think there's a guy named Brennan Dunn. I think I got his name right. Let me double check. Brennan Dunn. I kind of, I've always been working on this stuff for years, right? Brennan Dunn, yes. And so I've been familiar with him for a number of years. And he basically, I would say, in my sphere of knowledge at least, was one of the first guys to really talk about kind of productizing a service. So taking your skill as a freelance designer or a freelance writer, or even if you're not freelance yet, but you're kind of working in this capacity within a company, taking that skill and packaging it somehow, right? So if you are a designer, maybe you're teaching people how to design. Fairly learnable, I think. Writing, I find, is more difficult skill to teach. But maybe I'm looking at it wrong. That's the whole idea here. So what can't I see? What is it that people want? I was listening to this thing today, one of these like really hypey kind of offerings where you can sign up and they'll help you create your whole spiel, your product and your offer and all that. And one of the guys featured on there seemed fairly straightforward. He's a sales guy. He's a sales training program, and he talked about having the knowledge. He knows how to manage people. He knows how to sell, or he did and still does, I suppose. But he didn't know how to kind of put together a product for these things, and that's what this company that he hired helped him do. So they came up with these 4 different packages, things that people could buy based on his knowledge that he could provide, right? So there's like a challenge, a sales challenge, a kind of that's the number 1 product. Then there's like this like closing questions program, which is very fundamental if you've ever done any kind of reading in sales. I mean, those sorts of things are a little kind of a dime a dozen. But he's able to capitalize on this somehow. And then there's this like academy of sorts, right? And there's one other thing too that I won't mention, but so there's like stages, right? So you have to maybe think about your product, and so what's the first thing that you can offer to somebody that will kind of allow them to feel as though they've got something of value, this really insane value, this idea of the irresistible offer that I think Mark Joyner is responsible for coining, like something so irresistible that to pass it up would be silly, right? I'm not so sure it has to be that, but maybe it does. Maybe that's part of my improper thinking on this thing. But I think it's smart to package your first offer, or your first product rather, as some sort of a thing like a challenge or a one-day boot camp. One of the gals that I really enjoy learning from, by Regina, has this whole spiel as well, right? And I need to go back to her course to kind of revisit, like literally study, like as if I'm in an MBA program, how to do these things, because they're all encompassing. That's what's so nightmarish about this, right? So you can't just put together a product, because you need the visuals, you need the actual content in it, you need to brainstorm it. It's going to take a long time. And so, again, beware of that. Time is a big thing. So put it on your agenda, I think, and then move through the days and weeks and months and maybe even a year it takes you to get this thing done if you're working on your own. But anyway, she has this wonderful course called, she has a number of things. The one that I paid for a couple years ago is called Publish Your Thing, I think. It's like $3,000, which ain't chump change, right? But she's super great, very, very helpful and informative. And this is her model too, right? So create a challenge that enables people to pay for your product. Now this is usually a paid product, right? Maybe it's $27 or $49 or $97 or whatever. And the idea is you get people to buy into the idea of your product helping them. right? But the end of the challenge, whether it's a day, a week, or a month, or whatever, they will have created something, right? And then hopefully then you have people who have created something that then they can benefit from, right? And then they become fans of yours, and they promote your products if that's possible, and they want to come back for more, etc., etc. But if you're thinking about this, right, and you're notice, I'm talking about product here, right, not offer. You create a product, and you do all the back end stuff, the design, the actual creation of the PDF, the technology. Maybe you're laying out a book using Kindle Create, and you're going to put it on Amazon. Maybe you're going to have it available as print on demand. You're going to do this thing that Russell Brunson and all these other guys do, where you kind of offer it as something for free plus shipping, right? It's like a massive beast of things to take care of, right? And that's what's difficult about it, right? So you have to know that it will take time, I think. And even when you create the damn product, then you've got to get people to see it, right? Then you've got to be able to have money to put into a traffic campaign, because good luck trying to get people to a page that's a sales page with Google organic Google traffic. It's probably close to not going to happen, especially these days with all the rollouts that they've done over the past few years to the algorithm, where you used to be able to see sales pages landing up quick towards the top, right? Because they had all sorts of good keywords in there that made sense. It's very rare to see that today. So you have to get people to the page. So you have to create the product, then you have to have the money to be able to get people to the page. The offer has to be good. Then you have to have the whole program designed in a way, the product designed in a way that they can get some success at the end of it. Because if they pay money and they don't get anything out of it, then you're really in trouble, right? Then you got bad feedback. So I think all I'm trying to say here is, like, make sure that you don't just settle on the idea, as I was about to do last week, that it's the offer. I think initially that was my thought. It's the offer. But the more I gave it thought, and that's the important part, and the more I was aware of what other things it could be, then I realized that it's probably more than just the offer. So there are a few things that I discovered in the past couple days, and I was doing some reading, and I want to share that material with you. So I'll link below in the notes. I mentioned Adam Emfroy. He's definitely worth checking out. His game is really an affiliate game, but he's very smart in talking about intent. He has a VIP training program that he's putting together right now, so watch how he sells it, right? He's offering lots of information for free. I don't know what the product is going to be necessarily, but he seems like a straight shooter, and I would highly recommend checking him out. The other guy that kind of I really got some good info and insight from is this cat named Dean McKenzie. He's in Brisbane, and I'll link to him below. He has a great page called How to Build an Outstanding Offer from a couple years ago. And that's what gave me the idea to think that it's not my offer, it's the product. Because I read through all this and I think I've got all this down for the most part. But Dean McKenzie, worth checking out. Brennan Dunn, I mentioned earlier. He's at wyourfreelancing.com. He has a product too that you can buy. It's a little too expensive. That's the only problem. I would like to get in there, but I don't want to drop the coin. It's very dangerous to drop the coin on a lot of this stuff. And I actually put together a post on my site, which I'll link here too. People that you can follow and learn from by reading their posts and by listening to their videos and interview podcasts, all that stuff. So that you can get the kind of information that people do package into products without having to pay for it. It's not about cheating the system. It's about kind of making use of the time and saving your money. Most of these guys with their products are just taking stuff they've already written and talked about anyway and packaging it into a product. So that's cool if you want to just have everything in one spot. But even more, Marie Forleo, who is another person I've purchased her B school some years ago. Even she has said this. Yes, you can get all of this online, but it's here in one spot for you. Some people like that, but if you want to save $2 grand, you don't have to spend the money on that sort of thing right out of the box. But anyway, give it some thought. I'd love to hear from anybody on this if you have ideas or other resources you'd like to suggest, maybe in the comments, about how to create a good offer, how to create a good product, especially when you're too close to your own product to see the opportunities. I don't know. Are there groups you can join where people do this sort of thing? Is there a Slack group? I was in this group a couple years ago called 10X that was fantastic. It was about $100 a month. And people in there were all business owners, and they were all very giving of advice. But again, it gets pricey after a while, But those guys, more than any other group I'd ever been in my whole life, were actually willing to do the sort of stuff like I mentioned earlier with AppSumo guys. Give you, throw you a bone, give you an opportunity, pull you aside and say, hey, that's not a good idea. Or, hey, chill out on that idea, or whatever. I was getting on my high horse one day about writers in there. They're looking for cheap-ass writers. I'm like, come on, you guys again with the cheap writers. I'm so sick of this shit. You're paying all this money. Can't you pay a writer? And one of the guys had to tell me, let it be in a way. I listen to him, of course, but I'm not necessarily willing to let it be. I think it's somewhat exploitative. Is that even the right pronunciation? It's definitely not cool in my book. But anyway, yeah, if you know of a Slack group or a place where people hang out in Facebook to help talk about this sort of stuff, it'd be great to hear about that. So toss it in the comments below. I think I have everything like moderated so I don't get any weird stuff in there. But yeah, throw it in there and I'll approve it. And I would love to hear from you. So that is it for today. Is it the offer or the product? That is, time will tell. So we will see. Hope you enjoyed this. Like, subscribe, ring the little ding, ding, ding bell there that tells you there's a new episode coming tomorrow, which there will be. This was episode 5, so number 6 tomorrow. I hope the weather is treating you better than it is here in Japan. I'm going to go to school today. I'm going to get soaked. I have to bring 2 pairs of shoes. Not cool. All right, peace out for today. We'll see you later, folks. Thanks again for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Here's to good business building to you and lots of good stuff for you and your family on the way. All right, cheers.